What is up, guys, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to talk about the playoffs for Cologne. First of all, I just want to tell you how it went for me in the group stage. Top 48%, that is not something that I'm happy with. I will tell you how I ended up at top 48% and what I did wrong. Now, I did start with Hltv, and it's because he was extremely cheap, $143, and minus 13 is actually pretty good for someone that is that cheap. And because he was that cheap, I could afford the rest of these players that was pretty expensive, especially Saiwu, and he generated like okay enough points for him, what expected at least. TSS was okay. Yabi was a disappointment. Ever after the summer break, he has been the lowest scorer for Heroic. I don't know what's happened to him. I watched some games now with Heroic, and Yabi is not in his top level right now, so I will try to avoid him the next couple of tournaments. But my biggest disappointment is with Twists. Now, when I made this lineup, it stood between Twists and Magisk. I could afford Magisk if I had Shush here as well. So first, if I went with Shush and Magisk here, Magisk generated about as much as Saiwu, so 100 points. And I calculated that if I went with Magisk, I would have ended like in top 5%. So that bothers me a bit. But it is what it is, you know. Sometimes you make those mistakes. I chose Twists because of his recent form. You know, he had extremely good form in his matches here in the tournament before, but in this last tournament he was just a disappointment. I have nothing to say about that. I was unlucky, I guess. FaZe is also in a bit of a slump right now, so I don't know what to say about them. But that's how it is. Now looking forward to the next tournament here. So going through the playoffs here. Now, Vitality just lost their last match against G2, but Vitality is still one of, if not the best team in the world after Heroic or so. They have an extremely good map pool right now, and they're going against Cloud9 that now has Exile back. He will be playing with Cloud9, and that is a huge difference because Buster is not a high scorer of Cloud9, but Exile is supposed to be that. So with Exile, they should do even better. Now, Cloud9 is a new team with a new roster, but I have seen their games, and it looks like their chemistry is going pretty well, like with Shiro and Electronic. They seem to have a good time. So I could see Cloud9 doing an upset of Vitality, but I have to say that I go with Vitality as the winner of this game. Now going to like the easier matchup now to say is Heroic, that sure they lost their last game against ENS, but it was a close one, really close one. Like ENS won the last map by 16-14. And Astral is also looking pretty good. Good chemistry. Going through the lower bracket here, we can see. Beating Ninjas, Mouse, Navi. But all these teams also have new rosters. We don't really know where they are yet. So when we look at this match, I just have to give it to Heroic still. And I see this one as easier one than Vitality versus Cloud9. So therefore, I most probably will go with two Heroic players in the playoffs. Now, ENS will go against Vitality or Cloud9. Since I don't know about this one, who will win, there could be actually good to go with ENS players because they have been looking really great. The problem is that if we go with ENS players, then they won't get possible points from a first match. They will just get static points, like 6 points. I don't think it has changed. and that is not so much. But if you pick a player that is pretty cheap, someone like Snappy or maybe Hltv from G2, and they get static 6 points padding, it could be good. Especially on Hltv, that is cheap, because he tends to go negative on his points. So when we look at G2 here, Heroic coming up against G2, I think G2, they could beat Heroic again, but Heroic, I think they're a more stable team, and I believe they will go the whole way through this time. But I mean, Monisi, he was a beast in his last game, but maybe that was just one game, you know, because G2 is not at their consistent top level right now. So I believe Heroic will go to the finals. I'm not sure about this here, if Vitality Cloud9 ends, but if you want to go safe, go with like 1 or maybe 2 players from ENCE if you believe that, or one of these teams that you believe in. So I will just show you in my fantasy something that I'm leaning towards. Now this is just one example, like putting most of your budget here on Heroic. Cadian, a little bit expensive on Heroic, but he goes really well with the camper role and the op role. But as we can see, camper role, a higher chance to trigger the big trigger here than the op role. So that's why I choose the camper. Hunter, $194, I believe. Pretty cheap for Hunter. Also, he's already in the semifinals. Now, as I said before, Snappy gets 6 points of padding. It's okay for him. Also good to have one of these budget players, because now when it's such a short tournament, ENCE will play 1 or possible 2 matches. And that is really good for the boosters, because in the long run, I don't know which boosters to put on Snappy every time. But now when he just plays 1 or 2 games, it's easy to put like bottom of the scoreboard and then one more booster like assist, and then he triggers both of the boosters. And that is also really important. In a short tournament like this, it's extremely important that you try to trigger your boosters, because in a longer tournament it's more forgiving. You can not trigger some boosters and you trigger some, but here people will be closer in the points, and therefore you will want to trigger your boosters and rolls for that matter to get an advantage of the other users. And with the money I had left, there was like someone like Nerds, a really good player on ENCE, one of the better. Sampayus has been better, but I couldn't afford him here. So this is like one example, but one thing that I'm certain about is that I'm going with 2 Heroic players. Now I believe I did, yeah, this is another example. What I said before, even more budget spent on Heroic. Staven has been looking great. The same here with Nerds and Snappy. The thing here is, because I went down, I went up with Thesis to Staven, then I had to go down from Hunter to Hltv. But that is maybe not a bad choice, because Hltv tend to go negative on points. You know, he had lowest scorer on G2, but since he skipped the first match, he will get 6 points of padding, and that is pretty good for someone like him. Because also here he will play 1 or possibly 2 matches, and here it's even a bigger chance for him to trigger like the bottom of the scoreboard, as you can see here, like every time he is last on the scoreboard. So yeah, these are 2 examples. I will sit a bit with it and try some different lineups right now after this video. Looking forward to the playoffs, and yeah, that was it for me, guys. So thank you for watching again. Appreciate the support, and I will see you in the next video.